I have to give you a few more terminology in relation to this triangular shape, and now probably it's time to introduce the name for that. So this matrix, the last one which we found, this one, it's called the Row Echelon Form. That's how it's called. Normally, I will use the abbreviation REF for the Row Echelon Form. And in the formal definition, it sounds like this. A matrix is in Row Echelon Form, if and only if. I don't know if you know this abbreviation. If with double F stands for the if and only if. This is just the abbreviation for this. So I think two things which must be true. First one is that all zero rows, so rows which has all zero elements, they must be at the bottom. That's the easy requirement. A little bit harder requirement is this requirement, harder to understand. It's easy to visualize, but harder to understand when you write this, is this one. It says, in any non-zero row, the first non-zero element or entry is further to the right than the first non-zero entry of the row above it, I think. Entry of the row above. It's something, it's printed in your lecture notes, it's just a copy of that. So, but listen to this again. In any non-zero row, the first non-zero element is further to the right than the first non-zero entry of the row above. Look at this matrix we come up with here, triangular shape. It's this kind of property is very clearly seen here. Look at this. If I take this little circle, this is the non-zero element of the first row, first non-zero element of the first row. This is the second non-zero element. Sorry, it's the first non-zero element of the second row. This is the first non-zero element of the third row. Now, if you look at this criterion, it clearly you can see that actually this requirement is satisfied here very well, because look at this, the first non-zero element of the second row is further to the right than the first non-zero element of the first row. And the first non-zero element of the row number 3 is further to the right than the non-zero element of the row above it. That's how the triangular shape, this triangular shape is formalized in writing. And sometimes you will have the examples of matrices where to tell whether your matrix in triangular shape or not, you might need to refer back to this formal definition of that, because visually it won't be so clear as you might expect. And that's why we give you this formal definition. Now these elements which I put with which I circled in red, they call pivots. Actually it says even here. Non-zero element, non-zero row, the first non-zero entry of every non-zero row is called pivot. For the non-zero row, I think your lecture notes use the term leading row. And just sometimes your tutor or me will use the term leading row, and for you to understand what the tutor or me referring to, that's the definition of it. Every non-zero row is called the leading row. And the non-zero entry in that row, the first non-zero entry, is called the pivot. The other term which is used very often here is this one. Column which has pivots. Every column which has a pivot in it, it's called the leading column. So here, these 3 columns, they are the leading columns. So all 3 on the left, these are the leading columns because each of them has a pivot in it.